So today we're in Isla Vista, California, and we decided we're going to walk around and kind of get the feel of what everybody feels about stormwater pollution and urban runoff. Let's go take a look. We're wondering, do you know what urban runoff is?
No, I don't.
How about like stormwater pollution?
No.
Do you know what stormwater pollution is?
No, I don't think so.
How about like urban runoff or anything like that? Nothing to do? Well, it seems like this will be a major help to get actually the streets from not flooding, but maybe if it goes down to the ocean, it's not that good of a thing.
It's either way, it's going to go to ocean. It's a drag.
It is a drag.
I know, it's a drag, man.
It doesn't make any sense, really.
Look at this, it's pollution right here.
You can definitely see the runoff coming into the water down onto the beach and stuff. You can actually feel it too if you're like sitting under it, like it drains down onto you.
We're kind of walking around and talking to people about urban runoff and stormwater pollution. You guys know anything about that?
Pretty disheartening, I'd say. But yeah, if you go a couple times, you just get used to it. It's something you got to live with, I guess.
Yeah.
Just the other day, I've been sick.
No dumping the oceans. Tags right here. But it's just stagnant muck and trash. And when the first flush comes through, it's going to leave and go right to our oceans.
So the number one source of pollution to the Santa Barbara Channel is urban runoff or stormwater pollution. There have been quite a few studies done recently that have proven that people who are swimming closer to storm drains have a much higher risk of getting ill, gastrointestinal illnesses, ear, nose, and throat infections, and that sort of thing.
The problem is when there are artificial ingredients involved that are harmful to biological activity, biological life, including us, and the entire ecosystem, fish and birds and animals and all of that.
We're not entirely sure how some of these things like MTBEs and benzos and other benzochlorines, how these other chemicals, what the long term, we know a lot of what the immediate impacts are to environments, but we're now just finding out there's subsequent to that even long term impacts that we hadn't even thought of.
You know, our traditional way of doing this has been to just build gutters and pipes and get the stormwater off a piece of property as quickly as possible into the storm drains, but that's the problem.
So what you find is that there's about 1,000-fold difference in the amount of nutrients that get exported to the coastal ocean, depending on whether you're in a more or less undeveloped area through the cities to the highly agriculturally rich Carpinteria Valley.
We see the impacts, most of the impacts happen usually what they call the first flush or the first rainstorm.
All that water gets kind of flushed out to the ocean, and that's when we typically see a lot of beach closures because of high bacteria counts, or sometimes this rain event will overflow like a sewage capacity system, and it'll get flushed out there. You see a lot of sewage spills.
Beach closures occur in the winter because of bacterial contamination, which are carried off the land, certainly into the coastal ocean, and it's an issue. And there's no question about that.
I mean, the city of Santa Barbara's sewage system is 100 years old, and a lot of the sewage pipes are cracked and broken, and sewage can be basically exfiltrating from the sewage pipes into the groundwater.
When you add antifreeze or pesticides or herbicides and other contaminants, high concentrations of bacteria, you get problems, you get poisons, you get what was pure water running across the ground becomes toxic and poisonous. The quantities and the toxicity of what we're spewing into the oceans and lakes and streams is so dangerous and so poisonous that we're killing off the oceans. There's no credible argument about that anymore.
There's a researcher out there. His name is Jeremy Jackson. He's a very famous Scripps researcher, and he's kind of laid out a scenario that's quite frightening, that if we don't start taking care of our oceans, there'll be nothing left but this slime and jellyfish.
There was a saying, dilution is the solution. Just pour it into the ocean and it will dissolve. And that's not the case. DDT dumped off the coast of Southern California in Torrance and Palos Verdes is still there. I can't throw my trash out the door here and say, great, I've just avoided my waste disposal costs.
Shitter was full!
Ah, yeah. You checked our shitters, honey?
Clark, please. He doesn't know any better.
You ought to know it's illegal. It's a storm sewer. If it fills with gas, I pity the person who lights a match within 10 yards of it.
So here's a local watershed in Ventura. And after talking to all these scientists, we wanted to get down and see it for ourselves. And immediately when we get down there, we're seeing plastics right when we walk down. More cups, plastic bags, napkins, chip bags. It's all covering the surface as we get up here. And it hasn't rained in a long time. And after they call what they call first flush, when it gets raining for the first time after a while, it's going to wash everything out to our oceans, including fertilizers, pesticides. Who knows what bacteria we can find in there? It definitely isn't clean, but it's going out into our oceans. It's getting into our marine life, it's getting into our surfers, it's getting into all beachgoers, and people are getting sick.
The County of Santa Barbara has been cutting their stormwater pollution prevention budget every year since I've been monitoring it.
What's not happening right now is the rules are not being enforced. The regulators, the inspectors, they're not doing a good enough job.
In government, it's always, and we face this all the time, we always like to do more. Certainly, I know myself and my staff would love to be doing much more, or even in some of these ecosystem restorations or even permits, yet you're fiscally constrained by the amount of budget you have, and then the other competing priorities like public safety, fire.
We actually have a fairly comprehensive and effective set of laws that apply to our environment. But the problem is that they're not being enforced.
You might not even think everyday activities that really do contribute to stormwater pollution, like picking up after your pet, like not using fertilizers and pesticides in your yard, like composting your yard waste, making sure that you don't change your oil on the street and dump anything down a storm drain. And there's a lot of really simple solutions that if everybody was aware and was doing this would make a huge difference.
I think there's one thing that would make an extraordinary difference, and if that is if there was the political will for us to act on reducing the toxicity of what we're pouring out.